Friends and family, I ask you, who's the most important Husker on this football roster?
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here. 93.7 The Ticket, Lincoln, America. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch, listen each and every single day. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. Thank you for sharing. The numbers are going up. We need to continue to push. So if you have not subscribed, jump down there, click subscribe, click follow, share the content. Let your Husker your friendly folks know this content's out there. I want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in all of America, the official sportsbook of the National Basketball Association. Man, oh man, it's that time. So however you engage, diving into Sweet 16, Final Four, those opening days of Major League Baseball, FanDuel.com/LockedOn, more details. Go get yours. Prepare yourselves. Get yourself in. I asked the question, and remember this thing. It's not my job to have all the answers. It's my job to get to the right question. Day 4 of spring practice and first opportunity to get functional eyes on this team as they prepare and learn. And let me be clear in what today's practice screamed at me. It's not the same without Casey Thompson. I repeat it. Watching this team work and prepare and be led, it's not the same without Casey Thompson. That is not to speak less or ill of the rest of the Huskers, but I can tell you what it looked like under Thompson, and then I can tell you what it did not look like without him. Going through this stage of spring practice with a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, and a new defensive coordinator. Tony White and Marcus Satterfield are exceptional coaches, credible leaders, but they are currently in install. They are in the deconstruct, the breakdown, and the remodeling phase. They have to reimagine this roster. They have to reimagine the offenses and defenses under their own image. And then they have to identify who on the roster from the group of players that are currently here, who can do the things that they need done in their respective offenses and defenses. And it would be extremely helpful. We're going to spend the first part of this podcast on the offense and what I saw today. And Marcus Satterfield has a very definitive demeanor. It is boundaried, it is crisp, it is purposeful, and quite frankly, it's super direct. The person who could make this install, identity, remodel, and redirect easier is the best quarterback on the team. The guy who, when he was active last year, led this team. Casey Thompson was the guy. And being injured and rehabbing and being on a throw limit where he can't be out there throwing the ball around, he can go through the drills and do ball handling, which he did. I got to see him work on his ball handling. I got to see him work on his footwork, but he wasn't throwing the ball around. And with any of these groups, the thing that's required is to have somebody be out front to lead, to set the pace, to set the tempo, to put the right words into the space to make sure that everybody else is operating in the coach's honor and at the coach's level. But the other quarterbacks in the room, while you have a quarterback's room that has 5 players who have started college football games, four, and a 5th who won a high school national championship. I mean, actually quarterbacked the game in which his school won the highest level of high school football national championship at IMG. And in the closing segment today, I'll talk about that quarterback. But what I witnessed today was a lot of players. The returning players are trying to acclimate themselves to the new coach's way, his tempo, his speed, his verbiage. The transfer players are trying to find their way from one station to the next, still trying to learn the players that they're lining up with and behind, that they're redshirt and walk-on players who are anxious anyway, because these are opportunities for them to get right and get seen and get known. And what's missing currently, is that loud voice from within the team rather than from the coaches. And any great coach will tell you that the better teams are team-led, player-led teams, where there's somebody amongst the masses who can get people, who can reiterate what the coach has asked them to do, can be the voice for the coach to the players. And I can tell you, as simple as I can say it, the best person that could be for this group of Huskers, unfortunately, was wearing a different color jersey today and couldn't throw the football. They will be better once Casey Thompson returns in full, healthy. But that doesn't mean that quarterback room is empty. We'll talk about that quarterback room when we come back to Locked On. Thank you once again for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Your second watch and listen should be Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. All the information you need to have an informed bracket, to make informed decisions. No matter who your team is, no matter what bracket you're concerned about, no matter what coaches you want to know, Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown can bring that to you. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you consume your podcasts. We were talking about the most important player on the roster. And because of that, because the fact that Casey Thompson is the most, you will be able to tell the story of Nebraska's football season based on talking about Casey Thompson. More than any other player on this team. The most identifiable, the one with the most immediate impact. He'll have if he has the ball in his hand a lot, you know how the season is going to go. If he doesn't have it in his hand a lot, the season has gone horribly wrong. That's not to say that there aren't other options, because in that quarterback room, you have a group of players who 3 of them have started games, and another led his high school to a national championship. Casey Thompson started games for Nebraska last year. Trevor Purdy started games, along with some others. And then Jeff Sims for Georgia Tech. That's 4 right there. That's a deep room of college football experience, high-level college football experience. Today was the first day that I saw the movement that is Jeff Sims. the vibe, that's Jeff Sims. The man that is Jeff Sims. You got to see him. And a couple of things come to mind. Now, Casey, we're familiar with. Casey slight, extremely athletic, very fluid in his play action, his ball handling, his footwork, his arm talent. Very fluid. None of it looks strained. None of it looks forced. It looks very smooth. I would call Casey Thompson ice. Ice. It's as cool as the other side of the pillow. Chill. Jeff Sims, fire. Fire. First of all, for a quarterback, he falls in that big Power 5 build. If you sculpted a quarterback from toe to head, and in your perfect version, it's built like Jeff Sims. he looks, if you could look at it, he looks like a shortstop and a center fielder married a small forward or shooting guard. And they blend it into this wonderful thing that ends up with a rocket arm and really good feet and broad shoulders to work from. He looks solid, firm, foundational, very balanced in his athleticism, but he's athletically arrogant. It's those two, like when I can put that together about an athlete, he has athletic arrogance, which means that he moves into the things that are required of him with such a fluidity, and it's so deeply ingrained in him that he has time to focus on other things that other people don't get to because they're grinding to get to that physical place and that physical level of production and achievement. And they're worried about everything along the way. Jeff Sims athletically moves into that space easily. He's easily the most explosive of the quarterbacks. He's an explosive quarterback. And by that, I'm trying to find a mental image of who I could compare him to, but I want to be very careful. I want to be very careful about where I put him. But in your mind, if you saw how fluid Lamar Jackson is and how explosive, but how violent Cam Newton is, it's a perfect blend. That's the blend. Is that with his size, you can see why he ran the ball so well at Georgia Tech in that very conservative, defined Georgia Tech offense. Jeff Sims will drop back to throw and easily make the 4 locational throws that they're going to ask him to make in the Satterfield offense, right? So he'll hit the bang 8 post, like he'll hit that one, and that's an easy throw for him. He makes that naturally. The wide receiver screen, his hips are good, his footwork is good. He gets out of the catch of the ball and gets into that throw without changing his lower body. His core is good enough for him to transition and make that throw and still be accurate in it. He can plant the back foot and get the vertical deep ball. He also can plant that foot. He can, on his drop, he can plant that foot. And if he sees it, there's work ahead of him. There is space in front of him. I'm almost curious whether Jeff Sims, if he's the guy, if he's the regular quarterback, for whatever reason, good or bad, that if we track how many first downs he gains with his feet versus how many he makes on a throw, he's going to make Satterfield a better coordinator. because he'll allow him to space the field. He'll be able to stretch the field this way and this way. So he's got the horizontal stretch that he can go with an empty backfield, spread out defenders, give that offensive line more space where you need one win internally for Jeff Sims to plant the foot and get vertical, get you 7 yards with a linebacker who turned his head to chase, Fedoni on a crosser. Right, the moment he turns his eyes, Jeff Sims can see that, plant the foot, and get opposite of him and make him chase. And to do it, and where we don't hold our breath, that we're afraid that his thin, slim, less muscular body takes that wear and tear in those hits. Jeff Sims is built like a runner. He's built like a runner with a really good arm. And he can take the hit. But I don't think he's going to have to. I see him as a weapon on the ground and by air. Casey can run. But we hold our breath a little bit when Casey runs. When Jeff runs, we're starting to think, I don't know if anybody's going to stop him. That's two of the folks in the room. We'll talk about one more of those guys in the room, specifically the guy from IMG Academy. We'll talk about that when we come back to Locked On. Once again, I appreciate you hanging out with me for this episode of Locked On Huskers. Again, I want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook, again, America's #1 sportsbook. Download the app. It's simple. It's easy. And the payoff is really good. So pretty simple stuff on FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can get all the details there. The link is at the bottom of the screen. Again, thank you for subscribing and asking to get this content fed to you. Greatly appreciate it. If you haven't done it, do so. Greatly appreciate it as well. We're talking about the quarterback room. And of course, of the next few episodes, we'll just go over some of these groups because you find out more once you see them practice, when you see them active. Most folks know Heinrich Harburg, local kid, has rocket arm talent. Put that in air quotes. That thing that people talk about, his ability to be explosive with his arm. Still athletic enough, strong, multi-sport athlete. Logan Smothers, of course, who was a sprinter, multi-sport athlete, was actually a high-level sprinter, along with playing quarterback. Pretty good baseball player from reports. In that room, Rich Torres. Now, we want to talk about if you saw this group in a room and you saw them just walking in a line to the line of scrimmage, Torres is a guy who pops because he's magnificent. Like, it's just physically, you just go, oh, quarterback, cool. He looks like the modern generation of long, tall, athletic quarterbacks. Big arm, good accuracy in the space. He's got to learn the offense, and he's got to learn his personnel. But there's a guy on the roster that I wanted to give a shout out to. So Jack Welch, who is from Austin, Texas, originally. And my knowledge of him comes from talking to my dear friend Bobby Acosta, who is the head coach at IMG Academy in Florida. And he tells the story. Now, J.J. McCarthy was his guy. That was his quarterback that made them #1 in the country. But J.J. didn't play in their championship game. He wasn't eligible. He wasn't available. So they had to turn to their backup quarterback. Their backup quarterback played in the biggest game of the year in the two best teams and led IMG Academy to a national championship. 7 of 9 in the game, 88 yards, had a rushing touchdown, had a throwing touchdown. And he is now a walk-on at the University of Nebraska. 6'2", about 205, 210. The quote was this from Bobby Acosta. When he's done playing, he's so smart, he's going to make one hell of a quarterback coach. As a matter of fact, I'd like to have him coach for me. When a coach tells you that about one of his dudes, you know that Nebraska has a really good dude on their roster, and he'll make the room better. Real talk. Good stuff. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Your second watch and listen should be Locked On College Basketball. Andy and Isaac take you through with their breakdowns and their conversations with coaches and players. They'll give you all the insights you need for college basketball. Go and find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or however else you consume your podcast. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.